Being a teenager is such an exciting time, filled with lots of new experiences and opportunities. But learning how to handle your finance is a really important skill that will set you up for success in your future. Today, I will share 7 things that I believe are absolutely crucial to know and to start implementing as soon as possible. These money tips are not just for right now. They're ones that you can continue with for the rest of your life. But starting them early will allow your future self to really thank you. So let's get into number 1. Take risk. When I was 16, 17, 18, that sort of age, I was really sensible with my money. And this led to me saving a lot of my money. And I do thank myself for that now, looking back, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But what I failed to do is take any level of risk. And I think what you need to realize is that when you're at this stage, in your teenage years, or you're just in your young 20s, you probably don't have that many outgoings. You may not even pay rent at the moment. You might not have a mortgage. You probably don't have any dependents that you have to pay for, things like that. So you're at a very critical age where you actually can afford to take some level of risk. And I kind of regret not doing that looking back, because I felt like I really needed to hold and hoard that money. And I don't really know why I felt like that. Because if I were to take some risk and maybe throw £200 into trying to start a little side hustle or a side business, that potentially could have gone on to do really well, but it didn't. Let's say it failed. I wouldn't have been in a really bad financial situation. I wouldn't have been taken on debt or anything like that. And I'm not saying this is going to happen for lots of people, but let's just say you were a teenager in the year that Bitcoin started becoming a little bit known, and you believed in it and you did your research and you thought, I'm going to just take a little bit of a risk here. I've not got too much to lose. Put £100 in Bitcoin. That could have paid off a lot. Now, I am not suggesting gambling your money and taking uncalculated risks. I'm just saying at this stage of life, you don't need to be quite as sensible as you do later on. I saved a lot of money, I'm glad about that, but I wish I took on a tiny bit more risk. Now we'll jump in with this next one because it kind of relates to the first one, and that is save, not spend. Now what I did do really well, that I'm really thankful for, is that when I got money for Christmas, my birthday, any money from part-time employment, I saved probably about 80 to 90% of that in my bank account. Knowing what I know now, that probably wasn't great in terms of interest rates and inflation. It was a lot better back then, don't get me wrong, than it is today, but I didn't have access to investing and things like that when I was young. My parents didn't know about it. I was too young to open my own account. So, I did the best that I could. The point is, I didn't waste my money. I really am glad that I didn't just buy the latest phone and the latest clothes, and instead I decided to save that money. And I always kind of had a little game with myself where I'd try and reach the next amount of money in my bank. So when I had £100, I tried to reach 200. When I had 1,000, I tried to reach 1,100, 1,200, and so on. And this meant that when I got to the end of my university degree, which we'll also speak about in a minute, I was able to leave university with a nice pot of money, which I don't think that many people were actually able to do, and they just left with a lot of debt. So I was really thankful for that, because it meant that I didn't have to rush in to getting a full-time job. I could take my time with it. What I did is a completely different story, because I did get a job pretty much straight away. But the point is, I had a nice little pot of money there, ready to sort of be a comfort blanket if I needed it. Number 3 is to look to build income. My personal experience with this is that I always had part-time jobs growing up. I did a paper round when I was really young. Then I worked in a fish and chip shop. I worked in retail. I worked in grocery shops. I had a job since I was like 13 all the way up until I finished university. And then at that point, I got a full-time job. So I literally didn't really have a period of time where I didn't have a part-time job. That might sound really weird to some people, but what it meant is that I could start building my bank account up from a very early age. And granted, you don't get a lot of money from these part-time jobs really, because you're limited on the amount of hours that you can work. It has to fit around your schooling and things like that. But over many years, this pot did grow to a substantial amount of money for me at that time. And like I said, this meant that I had a pot of money ready for when I wanted to be fully independent. And also alongside this, it was quite nice to put these things on my CV and to talk about at interviews. And I think they really helped me get full-time jobs. But moving on to the next one, which is the one I actually regret that I didn't really do. And that is look for ways to build yourself income, and passive income specifically, outside of the norm. So like I said, I worked in part-time jobs. So I took the very traditional route of building income when I was a teenager. But what I didn't do is I didn't get creative with this. I didn't believe in myself to actually try and start a side business, to try and maybe build resources for my A-levels and sell them on Etsy. I saw other people doing it online, but I didn't think to do it. And I really, really wish I had tried, because I didn't have much to lose back then, even though I felt like I did at the time, and that could have really, really paid off. But nowadays, there are so many ways you can make money. If you've got a talent or you've got something you're good at, whatever it is, you can probably profit off of that. Looking back now, actually, I was quite good at writing CVs and applications for jobs and universities and stuff like that. I probably could have profited from that if I had wanted to. I didn't, but I could have. You can also start a YouTube channel now. If you're 16, 17 and you have an interest in that, then just use your phone and start, because you have got so many years that you can build up. Most people don't start until their late 20s, I would say. So even if you fail for the first 4 years, you're going to be ahead of most people. If you're good at art, you can probably do your art, take good pictures of it, sell it online. There are so many options to make money. And I think this one is particularly harder if you're not from a family that perhaps owns their own businesses, or you're not from a family that has this money making mindset, because then you only see the traditional route of making money and you think, school, maybe part-time job, university, full-time job, that is what life is. That's how you make money. But it doesn't have to be just that. So the fact that you clicked on this video and you're watching this if you are a teenager is fantastic. But have a think about ways that you can actually make money. How can you turn your interests into a money-making method? Because that could become really big for you in the future. Or even if it does fail and you manage to make £100, then you can take that £100 and you can do something else with it. You can try it again. That is the beauty of being so young. The next one is to pay for stuff yourself. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and do your family's entire grocery shop using your £10.50 that you might have in your bank or anything like that. But I am suggesting that you try your best where you can afford to actually start learning how money really works. Because I think for a lot of people, how money works in the real world can be quite a fright. So if you expose yourself to that early and you start understanding how money works in terms of buying your own things, all the bills that you have to pay, interest, bank accounts, all of that stuff, you're going to be 1 foot up on most people. Next, we've got learn about how money can make money. Now, I'm specifically talking about investing in this one because that's something I'm really passionate about and something that I didn't learn when I was a teenager, really. I didn't have too much exposure to the world of investing. I did have my granddad who did invest and would speak about it occasionally, but it's not until later on in life that I really sat down and spoke to him about investing and what it actually meant. But I think if you are a teenager now and you are either 18 or you are approaching 18, start thinking about investing. Start learning about your different options. If you're in the UK, definitely go and learn what a stocks and shares ISA is. It is basically an account that we can have in the UK that allows us to invest tax-free. So any money that we make on that account is completely tax-free, which is quite a rare thing to ever get anything tax-free. So definitely go and look into that. And importantly, go and learn about how investing is a way for your money to make money through compounding, and how that is most often a better method of using your money than keeping it in a bank account. And to go and learn about things like that, you want to look at interest rates and inflation and the relationship between them. And you want to look at how investing can compound over time. I have lots of videos, I'm sure, that I dive into things like that. Leave questions if you've got any in the comments below. But also, if you are above the age of 18 and you do want to open yourself a stocks and shares ISA and start investing, then I will leave a link in the description below. It's a link to open a Trading 212 account, which is the account that I use, the platform that I use, and on that I have a stocks and shares account. And that will give you a free share worth up to £100 just to get you going. The last one that we have may be a little bit controversial, and it's definitely something that I've only started to see both sides of the older that I've got, and that is think carefully about the debt that you take on. Now, when you're a teenager, there is one big debt that you probably take on, and that is going to university. Now, some careers require you to go to university, and it's not even, it's not even a thinking point. If you want to be a doctor, you go to university, you take on that loan. It makes complete sense. Hats off to you for being smart enough to do that and for wanting to do that. But I'm speaking specifically about the people that maybe you don't really know if you want to go to university. You know that the career that you want doesn't require you to have university. For those people, just think really carefully, because it's getting more and more expensive. And like I said, a lot of the careers that you can have nowadays, you don't actually need a degree. So you might just end up getting yourself into debt for no reason. But also what I would say is that university is an experience. And I was really glad that I got that independence. And, I'm quite thankful for my experience at university. Now, I don't work using my degree anymore, but I did need a degree to get my job. So it's quite a difficult one to have pros and cons for. But yeah, I just don't think it's as necessary as it was maybe a few years ago. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of careers that you can do really, really well at and make a lot of money that don't require you to actually go and get a degree and get yourself into lots of debt. So definitely think about that. So those were just 7 tips, and I'm sure there are many more. So I urge you, if you are older than a teenager watching this and you want to give any tips, any advice about finance, money mindset, investing, anything like that to the younger people, then do leave them in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in another video.